All right. So it looks like everybody from the survey looks like they want to grow by at least 100, if not 200 doors this year. So you guys are in the right place. So enough about all the great stuff we've done this year. Let's jump into the main topic. Let's talk about the long-term ROI of business development in residential property management. So I'm really excited to share with you multiple clients that we've worked with spanning anywhere from about a year to almost 8 years. So that's what's really cool about RentScale turning 8 this February. We have the ability to show you what clients have done who have taken these models, instituted a proven sales system, taken the sales and marketing department seriously, essentially hired a BDM and grown. So we've got Mark Ainley here today. He's one of our longest clients, been with us for for 7 years, which we're going to have him share his journey. As you can see, his company has absolutely exploded. And shout out to Mark for suggesting that we host this webinar because he has been through such a journey that he couldn't wait to share his story. And he knows that other RentScale clients have experienced similar growth, and he knows the property managers need to hear this. We've also got Robert Del Oso here. We'll bring him up first. What I really like about Robert's story is he was essentially hosting or running his business as a little bit of a side hustle. Decided to get really serious about it, worked with RentScale to hire a business development manager. Company took off, and now it is a full-time outfit, and he's doing some really great stuff. We've got tons of case studies like this over and over again. I love the Kareem story because he was from a sales background. He was in software sales. He started his property management company because, let's be honest, the word is out and everybody loves this business and all the recurring revenue. And so he started an RPM franchise in Charlotte and said, look, nobody's taking this sales thing seriously. So we started working with him and just really helped him scale his company. And then we've got Brandon and Travis, some amazing clients that we have out in Arizona. This is their second go around. They actually started a property management company, exited it, restarted, and now they wanted to take the customer acquisition side a little bit more seriously. So if you follow Brandon and Travis on social, see great stuff from them. And we really helped them ramp up quickly on their second go around. So I'm excited to introduce you to three featured guests today. Again, I've got clients that we've worked with for 8 years, 5 years, and 1 year, and we did this on purpose. So I went back, guys, and I looked at the records in our CRM, and I'm excited to say, Mark, you almost made single digits, but you just missed it. Client number 10. I think Peter Lohman snuck in and beat you out by one client there. But almost single digits. Client number 10 all the way back in November 2018 when we were really still figuring this whole RentScale thing out. Still a client. Going to share some great stories. Got Robert, who signed up in the craziness during COVID. Client number 119. Going to share his story. And then wanted to bring in somebody a little bit newer. So Casey, about just under a year with RentScale, he's gone all in and made some significant progress. And so we wanted to give you guys just a swath of clients at different levels and show you what investing in ROI has done for them. So before I bring my guest on and introduce them to you, I simply want to set the stage for how we're measuring the ROI today and share some numbers from our friends over at Profit Coach. I do have the financial benchmarks on my desk, and they're responsible for some of these numbers. And I think it's really important that you guys can quantify why you're doing this so you have some courage to move forward. Now, one of the things I like to ask, and one of the inspirations for this is I have conversations with property managers all the time at NARPM events, on our consultations, at different other events. And we show them case studies like this. And they say, yeah, but I just don't know if that's going to work in my market. Or I just don't know if that's going to work for my business. And so as you go through this presentation today, my question to you, or my what I want to highlight in the back of your mind is say, okay, if it works for these guys, why wouldn't it work for us? When you go through this and you see hundreds of case studies at NARPM conferences and all kinds of things like this, and you see that people scale when they invest in growing their business, why would it work for them but not for you? It probably will. You just need the right framework and you need the right partnership to move forward. And so that's a big reason why we wanted to do this with you today. So I know holidays are coming up. I want everybody to take home the money multiplier 5,000. This is what we're trying to do when we grow our property management company or any service business. So RentScale is my third service-based company. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is you want to build a company where you can put a 10 or a $20 bill into the money multiplier and get out a $100 bill over and over again. That's really what we're trying to do. The problem is sometimes you don't even have the $10 bill and you say, well, can I put a quarter in? And then we say, well, the money multiplier only takes dollar bills. So you need a little bit more resources to do it. And you say, okay, great. And then you put in the $10 bill and you say, wait, I don't have the $100 bill yet. And the problem is the money multiplier doesn't print as fast as we want it to. So this is about lifetime customer value. Sometimes you put the 10 in and it takes a little while to get the 100 back out, but reliably the money multiplier always works if it's in shape, if it's in tune, if it's well serviced. You're always going to be able to put that $10 bill in and get a $100 bill out. That's really what we're trying to do today. So how does that work? Two key variables. The other thing I have on my desk is a workbook from going to the Alex Hormozy event at acquisition.com in Las Vegas. So Jen and I went to the Hormozy event and they talked about investing in their companies, investing in other people's companies. And they said what they really care most about is that lifetime value to customer acquisition costs. And that's the money multiplier. If I put $1 in, can I get $10 out? So the $100 coming out of the money multiplier is your lifetime customer value. But when it comes to property management, Profit Coach has helped us devise some more relevant numbers for our business. So instead of lifetime customer value, we're focused on unit economics. We're focused on unit lifetime revenue. That's the amount of money you can make per door over the lifetime of how long that stays with you. So that's obviously your management fees, it's a leasing fee, it's any fees you get from the tenants, it's renewal income, it's every dollar that you can make. So, if you look at the benchmarks, I mean, we've got clients that are making $30,000 lifetime revenue from each door. So that's really up to you to decide what that is. I think the benchmark was a little bit closer to 25,000 if I remember, as I flipped through this in a hurry. But like I said, it really depends on what you're charging and how long you're keeping your customer. Now, what we're talking about today is really the unit acquisition cost. How much does it cost for you to acquire that unit? That's your marketing spend, your advertising spend. It's what you spend on your business development manager. It's the budget they have. It's all in. And so Bradley from Profit Coach will help you break that down. They've got some great stuff on the Profit Coach website. If you look at pmprofitcoach.com, there's a ton of information there. But the concept is really simple when you think about our money multiplier 5,000. We know that the $100 bill is what we come out, and we know that $10 is what we want to put in. And that is a fantastic target that we want you looking for. So at the Hormozy conference in Vegas, he said, look, I want all of my service companies to have a 10-to-1 ratio. For every dollar they put in, or $10 like the money multiplier, I want them to get $100 out. Now, there are some companies that are doing half of that, and there are some companies that are doing 2 to 3 times that. That's your leverage ratio. That is what you have control over. But if you know these numbers, it is going to allow you to invest confidently and clearly into your business development growth. And so the 3 gentlemen that I've invited on today are going to show you exactly how they're doing that. But this is the kind of ROI you should be expecting if you're investing into your business. Now, I will say this. So Brad from Profit Coach said, I think that our best clients are typically spending around $1,000 per unit to bring on. So they do this benchmark study. They did it in 2022. They're doing it in 2025. So we've got the average, and then they've got their top 25% performers in terms of profitability and growth. And so what you'll see here is numbers are all over the place, but it's just an easy, back of the napkin number to say, if I'm spending $1,000 and I'm getting back $30,000 for that over the lifetime value, that's pretty good. The courage comes in if you say, look, I want to add 150 doors next year. Well, then you probably need to be ready to spend 150 to 250,000 overall, because that's what the money multiplier machine is going to require to be able to do this. Now, lots of caveats. Obviously, the longer you're in business, the more well-oiled your machine is, the easier it is. So it may not be $1,000 per unit in year one. In fact, it might be $2,000 in year one, but then you get the flywheel going, you get the momentum going, you get the reputation, and you drive that number down. But what's great is you put the unit acquisition cost in once, and then it's a recurring revenue business for you over and over again. So that's the setup. We're going to come back to that a few times during this session, but that's the mathematics stuff. I'm a sales guy. That's as much math as I can handle. I want to get into some of the stories and some of the examples. And so, Robert, I want to bring you up on stage. Tell us about your market, current door size, and where you are with your business today.
At around 510 today. So it's been a nice steady growth ride, but really the growth has been, call it since 2020 versus the first 4 years.
Excellent. Great. And so, just kind of walk us through what was in your mind. Why did you reach out to RentScale? What were you thinking about? And what were the options you had that you may have acted on to grow your company? And why did you ultimately decide to do it the way you did?
Sure, yeah. So year one, I invested about $1,200 a month in Google AdWords to get about 35 doors, and then I kind of paused that after year one and had organic growth. And sure, you can throw money to Google AdWords and stuff, but I don't know really if that's the best return on investment there. So we had a little organic growth. It was really just me for the first 4 years or so, and then COVID hit, actually, and I was in different various Facebook groups, and people kept mentioning RentScale. And I didn't really have any direct feedback from people. And like, yeah, you got to go to RentScale. I just kept seeing some posts here and there. And so I reached out after doing some searching of my own. And RentScale was really the only company at the time that was offering scaling for property management firms, right? There was a ton of companies out there that focused on the real estate sector, and they probably cost a fortune, but they really don't focus on property management. And it's an investment, but I said to myself, hey, I'm doing this on the side. I had another full-time job that I was miserable with in the corporate world. I did IT project management for 20 plus years and hated it. So I figured I need to go all in, but I found myself trying to keep up with the leads as they came in. Even before RentScale, we had leads coming in, trying to keep up with them while trying to do property management, and leads were getting missed. And I think that's common in the industry, right? Because everybody tries to do whatever they can themselves, and they don't think to hire business development managers. So that was just kind of a waste of leads, right? Even though they were organic. So engaged with RentScale, went through the full process. I went all in, built out the sales blueprint, find my BDM. I have a wonderful BDM, Leslie, who's still with us today. In fact, I think she's on this call. So she's been with us, 5, 6 years now. So, and we've had pretty steady growth, upwards of like 20% a year. So I think that's really good, strong, consistent growth that we would not have had otherwise. It would have still probably been kind of a just trying to do it myself and keep up with leads and bring on some doors here and there. And just, I never would be where I am at today in terms of door count had I not formalized our sales organization.
I appreciate that. I remember, so you were not even full time. You were getting close to 100 doors, around 100 doors,
About 75, yeah.
about 75, and you hired a full-time BDM, which could be scary. How long do you feel like it took for that business development manager to pay off for the hire?
It was actually pretty quick. So she came on in October, and then she, went through the rent scale training. She was joined a BNI group. And one of the connections she made in the BNI group was with a mortgage broker who connected her and me up with another PM firm that was wanting to exit the business. So through that connection she made, through her networking and just sales skills, right? Because that mortgage broker had to be comfortable to make the introduction that he had a trustworthy referral source. We were able to purchase it, I felt, at a really good valuation. In fact, they did I'll be transparent, they did a no interest owner finance on it. So it was great. I put some money down, but it was the best loan ever. So we added 125 doors. So that more than doubled us overnight when that happened. It was February, which is kind of the slower time of year, which is good. There wasn't a lot of turnover at the time, but we brought on somebody from that company part-time who came on full-time eventually, and that helped. And we've grown since then pretty steady because we ended up hiring a full-time handyman, and now we have around 10 people in the company today. So we had pretty quick return on investment, but I did plan ahead. I said, I need to be prepared to pay salary for 12 months. That was I planned it conservative. I needed to play 12 months, and then the role would be paying for itself and then some, right? So as you know, but people may not know, your BDM should be more than paying for themselves through the door count they're bringing in. And that's the case that we've had every year so far.
Awesome share. That was a little serendipitous. We love that story when we heard it. I like to say, everyone knows this, like the quote, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I feel like there's something called like surface area. The more you're out there, the more you're doing, more opportunity for the fish to jump in the boat, which is what it sounded like when this BNI opportunity came in. You literally had the fish jump in the boat, which happened
Yeah.
immediately.
Right place at the right time. And I've had some relatives who've been pretty high up, C-suite level at Fortune 500 companies, and they all say the same thing. It's right place at the right time. I mean, you got to be a performer, but it's also a lot of it's right place at the right time, kind of lucky. So, but you don't get that luck unless you go out there and use the fishing analogy, start fishing.
But that's why I just want to share that because so many people will call me and they've got their little spreadsheet with all their cells. And I don't know, Brad, if you're putting this in their head, if it's you, but they're like, oh, I just can't make it work within 14 days, And I'm just like, well, sometimes it's just getting out there and getting in momentum, right? And these things start to happen. So it's amazing. So that was one, amazing serendipitous opportunity. But now you've been repeating it over and over again. Leslie's been with you for 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, going on 6. I don't want
Awesome.
to misspoke. She'll correct me,
Yeah.
but she'll ping me. But yeah, she came on in 2020. So
Amazing. Okay. All right. So fantastic story. Thank you. I'm guessing you're not at the corporate job anymore.
no, I left 3, 4 years ago. I just
How
kind of
much do you
did.
how much do you miss it?
I don't miss it at all. I basically did an Irish goodbye. I went on vacation and then never came back.
That's the way to do it. That's maybe the
Right?
highlight of the of the webinar so far. I love that. All right, so I want to move on to somebody else, but I do want to know what's 2026 look like for you? Tell us what's next.
Yeah, so we work with Profit Coach to, as you know, they're great, right? They really help us drive down and drill into our numbers to see our things such as our unit acquisition costs and our goals and financial planning. I call them our CFO, and that's what they are. So for 2026, we're shooting for 30% growth. We've had call 18, 20%. I forget the exact number for 25. It's not quite over yet, but 30% going up is very doable number in our book. And in talking to other PMs, talking to Profit Coach, RentScale, 30% is not some weird astronomical number. We think
Yeah.
we can get there. So I'd love to add 150 doors, a stretch goal. If we can get up to a little bit over that, it would be even better. But I'm shooting for 30% a year for the next several years. And part of that takes some targeted investments, right? So I
Mhm.
can't just go to Leslie and say, hey, go get more doors. We've got to figure out, like, we got to find new referral sources, lead sources. We've got to make targeted investments in those potentially, whether they're paid leads or different referral avenues we'll go with. So it does cost money. I don't want people to think that we can just go say we're going to work harder and get more doors. We have to figure out the strategy and the plan because what works today and what has worked in the past may not work tomorrow. We have paid referrals that some years work great, some years don't work as good. So you got to always kind of look at it. You can't really just set it and forget it.
Yeah, 100%. My takeaway from thinking about your story is I say this all the time. You want to move the lever, you've got sweat equity and you got check equity, right? Sweat equity is I'm going to go do work. I'm going to go to the BNIs. I'm going to call people. Check equity is I'm going to do marketing. And I think so many people are starting with check equity, but you're a great example of you invested in the sweat equity first. now you've got your first full-time marketer, which is Cheryl. Shout out to Cheryl, right? And so now you're
Yep.
saying, well, now how can I start using some of this income to invest and multiply? Is that a fair summation?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we did was we did a full website refresh earlier this year on our website, and our organic leads have gone up exponentially. And of course, organic leads have a much, much higher close rate. So there's, you know, and they're, call it free. Each lead doesn't cost us a lead fee, but they're great. So our what we're spending on our paid leads, we use Geek Real Estate Marketing for paid leads, is actually down about 20% just because we're not getting as many leads because we're getting way more organic leads. So we can take some of that budget that we're not spending on Geek leads and reinvest that in other places to try to drive additional referral avenues.
Good stuff. Well, guys, if you guys have got questions, drop them in the chat. We're gonna transition to another case study. Robert, will you hang around and answer questions in the chat?
Yeah, happy to.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. All right, Jen, you want to introduce us to Casey and talk about our next case study?
Yes, it's my first time on Zoom. I was muted. All right, so Casey, um, the first time I spent any real time with Casey was at a Trump presidential suite on the very top floor out in Las Vegas. And this is just the way that RentScale rolls. And Casey was down for it. He was in for it. And I just remember being so incredibly impressed with Casey because he comes to me and he's like, I'm all in on growth this year. That is my focus, is just growth. And I was like, okay, great. Growth is what we do, right? And I'm a salesperson, so I'm like, yes, this is perfect. It's aligned. Well, Casey ends up buying into right there, practically on the spot, two of RentScale's different programs. One was creating the sales system, the blueprint, the playbook, all the stuff, hiring a business development manager, training them, and then coaching them. And is like, hey, I'm not messing around here. I am going to go in and we're going to do new customer machine 2 to generate leads. So, Casey, talk to me a little bit about this experience and this like you were so focused on growing this year. So, what made you be like, this is my solution and RentScale is who I'm going to hitch my ride to?
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. Jen, we closed those 22 units. When I was on the phone with you this morning, I told you I was driving out to a deal, and we closed those 22 units. So we hope to be one of your top performers on the dashboard next month. Anyways,
Love it.
yeah. So no, look, we've been super happy with RentScale. I mean, when I have a sales and marketing background, and so I think what took me a while to come around with you guys was like, well, that's my skill set. Why would I hire for that or partner with you guys for that? But, I come from years and years of sales, software sales leadership and SaaS leadership. And so that's my experience. But, one of the things that I realized, we went from 0 to 750 doors in our first 5 years or so. We've been in business for about 7 years. And, for lack of better terms, I ran out of time, so I no longer had time, but it was also an interest thing. And I think maybe, I don't know, it took me a while to realize that, but I realized at a certain point that I was no longer interested in picking up the phone for 3 units when 3 out of 750 units was just such a small drop in the bucket where it was really interesting to me in the first couple of years. And so I knew that if we were going to continue to grow, I had to bring someone on board. And so that's the biggest reason I partnered with you guys, was to have, a team like yours that is as excited about 3 units as I was in year one. And to work with our rep, not just, Jen, you and I spoke this morning about the difference between growth and scaling, and not just plug a bunch of ideas that have worked for others into my BDM, but to take things that have worked for us and help our BDM execute on those and bring some new ideas to the table. And so he's doing a really good job, I think, of executing on your ideas, but also keeping some of the things that we've found work for us too.
Yeah, I mean, Casey, you're a wealth of knowledge. And we have a lot of clients that come in and they don't have any sales or marketing experience. In fact, most people are actually operations minded. And so Casey was like, hey, I need you to work with me and with what I know works, and then guide him and guide me and guide us. And that's worked out well. So we're excited for that. So Casey, clarify for everybody, how many doors are you at today?
Yeah, so we're at about 750 doors today. We did a little bit of long story, did a little bit of regrowth. We did some great work with Profit Coach, decided we wanted to shed some of our less profitable clients and sort of rebuild. So that was the other big reason for bringing someone on board, is to go out and actually target some business that we want to do business with. And we've been a bit more specific about who we bring on board.
Okay. And one thing I admired about you when I first met you, standing in the corner of this very, very loud room at Trump Tower, is you were so all in on growth. What made you, I mean, more than I've probably ever seen before, what made you so all in on growth in 2025?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've read the book 10X, but there's a lot of 10X books out there, but I finally read the book 10X, and one of the things that appealed to me was that, you choose the types of problems that you want to solve. And so the guy with one pizza shop that works 16 hours a day running the whole thing is essentially working just as hard as the Papa John or the guy that CEO of Pizza Hut or one of those. They just choose to solve different types of problems. And so I chose to solve two primary problems, which was, one was the people problem, hiring the right people, and two is the growth problem. And then I brought in a really good vice president of operations that handles our operations problem, for lack of better terms.
Okay, awesome. So you move forward with generating leads with us and also putting together your sales system, hiring your BDM. What is the most surprising thing or things that has happened since working with RentScale? Like what really shocked you?
Um, well, I don't know if this is since working with RentScale, but from the very get-go of like the recruiting process with the BDM, I thought that it shocked me in the sense that, like, I've been in sales leadership for 25 years, and I don't think I had a process as good as the process that you had. And it's not like complex or crazy or anything, but it was just really well executed. It involved me the right amount in the right places, and it ended up, I think, with a really good hire. And so that it surprised me that I'm still learning new things about hiring great sales talent, having been in it for so long.
Love it. Okay, so something else that kind of came to mind for me was part of what we tell you to do in New Customer Machine is direct mail, which I think
Ah,
even you were like, you want me to what? I'm sorry, you want me to put stuff in the mail. Can you tell people about your experience with direct mail so far?
yeah, our direct mail for us has been fantastic. We're like, what's old is new. I mean, I can't tell you. You know what the least effective channel is these days are like in-mail messages, right? I mean, it's even worse than email now because you see so many of them. But with direct mail, we have found that we're getting some good responses. The responses that we get, they've been really good leads. And so, no, we've seen a ton of action with direct mail, and we're going to keep doing it. We do it every, I don't know, what do we do? 6 weeks, Jen? You would know better than I do. I think we do it every 6 weeks, and it's been great. Fantastic.
Ah, cool. So, let me ask you, Casey, are you combining direct mail with any outbound calls, or are you just mailing and people are scanning that or going to your website or telling you that's where they found you? Is there a combination of things happening?
We are. We're trying to hit the exact same list of people that we had that are target market for us with direct mail, some LinkedIn advertisement, um, direct, calls, so outbound calls, and there's some limited email campaigns we're doing. We're not doing like bulk email campaigns, but we're doing some good ones with them. And yeah, we're trying to be front and center for the same list of people that we think are good targets for us.
Love it. Okay, so let's kind of expand on that. Where does most of your business come from today? And you don't have to say direct mail, honestly.
Yep.
Where is most of your business coming from?
Um, Well, frankly, in the last quarter, last 60 days, I would say the most of it has come from direct mail by unit count. We did a 45 unit deal. We have a verbal on today, and a 22 unit deal we just inked. And the both of those, well, I'm sorry, the 22 units came from bigger pockets. So we
Hmm.
do some advertisement with bigger pockets. I had that wrong, and so that's been good for us. And then the direct mail's been good for us. And the third party lead gen, I know they get a bad rap, but I think, to us, if you follow up diligently with all property management, um, and reject their leads if they're not good and get a credit for it. They're, the real leads in there are, convert at a reasonable rate, we think.
Love it. What's not working for you? Are you looking back at 2025 and going like, hey, we may not do that in 2026?
Not so much 2025, but before that, I've seen some chatter here on BNI and things like that. This is maybe market specific. BNI, the BNI and Chamber of Commerce, those are look, I'd fire my BDM. I'm kidding, but like I told him, if you ever go to any of these again, you're done. And I'm sort of kidding, but they've just it's the signal to noise ratio, for whatever reason, for us in those groups is very, very high. Lots and lots of people interested in lots of things. The chance that they're also an investor is low. We have found more luck targeting investment meetups and both online and in person, as far as networking goes and things like that. And so I think some people have had lots of luck with BNI. So I hope they don't take my advice too seriously, but for us, it's just not been good. BNI, those even realtors stop by. Frankly, I don't know if it's our market or what, but it's like a lot of time to stop by these offices, and we just haven't seen a huge return there, but I know lots of people have.
Yeah, for sure. So what networking are you doing? Is there anything specifically working when it comes to that?
So we see, we try to add value. I mean, we're not out there just being salesy, but we try to add value in platforms like Bigger Pockets or Facebook investment groups and things like that. And, people have questions all the time, questions about what do you do with a security deposit, or how do we deal with frozen pipes or insurance adjusters or tenants that smoke or things like that. And, we just try to give our advice, and we don't even name, I'm from Hauser Property Management, but, people look and wonder, hey, who's this person? He seems to add some good context and advice. And oh, she works for Hauser Property Management. So that's where we try to do is be more value add and sort of hope they do the homework to find their way to us.
Love it. Okay, that's great. So last question, I promise you've been so awesome. What is your growth plan for 2026? What do you want to do?
Yeah, so it's pretty aggressive. We spent the last year building the BDM, and on the operation side, doing a lot of work as it relates to solidifying our foundation so that we can grow quickly and still have high service levels. And so we want to add about 400 units in 2026. That there's a little bit of a breakdown there. That's like 100 unit plus a few 50 units. A handful of 10 units, and then a lot of other stuff. And so we've got a pretty good targeted plan around that, which, Jen, I know I owe you that plan, so you can kind of look at it and work with us on leveraging that with Lucas, our BDM as well.
We have a lot of people breaking it down like that this year because we have so many people that are chasing after those big multi-unit deals that they don't want, like the forecasting gets a little messy. So
Right.
I actually just met with someone else in Scale Club and we broke it down the same way where it was like a big deal per quarter is how we did
Yeah.
it. So I like the way you're looking at it. Casey, we absolutely love you as a client. One of the best, one of the most fun to work with. So thank you for joining us today. And if you don't mind, hang out in the chat. And if anybody has questions, you can answer a few of those.
Yeah, for sure. No, glad to join. Thanks, Jen. We love the work you guys are doing.
Thanks, Casey.
Appreciate it, Casey. You already got some questions about your direct mail list. Spill the beans, if you don't mind. I appreciate it. The good news about the chat is it's not in the recording. So whatever you give away here won't make it into the recording. But I think that was great. So that brings us to Mark and to Shay, who really, keyed us off on this. So if you guys read Strategic PM, Mark was the very first cover story of Strategic PM. We just didn't have a budget for photography, so I used a stock image instead of Mark, which I feel really bad about. Everybody else on the cover has had their own image. Sorry, Mark, I owe you on that one. But I knew that I wanted to tell a story. So I can just share with you guys, 8 years into RentScale, there's a lot of things that are working for me with momentum. And what's really cool about watching what GC has done is they are 10 plus years into this, a very long time. So if you guys don't know the GC story, I highly encourage you to go to the RentScale homepage, click on customer testimonials. I did a documentary style interview with Mark. We talked about his whole story, which is amazing. But what I want to say is I love using Mark as an example of what happens when you think big and what happens when you work for a long time and you're not asking for instant gratification. You're saying, well, what happens if I'm in this business for the long haul? And what happens if I can actually create my own audience and my own podcast? And so If you guys don't know, I'm just going to share this one thing before I turn it over to the Mark and Shay show, because that's what it's about. Is 1,700 plus doors, way more than that. This graphic is very old. They are on the Inc. 5000 list year after year. Remember when I said, "Hey, what's your door count?" And he said, "I don't really think about doors. We're just trying to get to $1 million of revenue per month." Hold on. Nobody talks about that in property management. Most people are like, let's get to $1 million a year, right? Big thinker, big executor, crazy guy, running with scissors constantly. And I love that. So, Mark, I'm not even going to ask you any question other than tell us about your experience in the last 8 years since you got that juicy results invite.
Well, thank you for all those things you said. Most of them are true. A couple exaggerate, but I'll take it either way. I think to do anything big, you can't go at it alone, right? And you guys have been a great partner. You, even prior to RentScale, have been a great partner, helping me get to that next level. And I think that's been the biggest thing for us. I've used you guys time and time, both my BDMs now, to help me put the first BDM Shay in place. And a lot of it's because a lot of your guys' strengths are my weaknesses. I can show Shay, when he came on, all the gritty, stupid stuff that you hear the stories. I was climbing through windows, doing crazy stuff nowadays. But you guys actually gave him formats and scripts and told him how to follow them and did the role playing, all that stuff. So as a partner, and any of us on this call, even the audience, as a business owner, there's always good intentions to do things. And I've just realized those good intentions get wasted. And the value that I've whatever dollar amount I've ever had to pay you guys, and whenever I talk to people considering you guys, whatever dollar I ever had to pay you, the value has exceeded 5-10 times that. And the funny thing is, it's even hard to put a number on, because it ends up compounding over the years. And a lot of people, property management is a very reactive business, and sales and marketing ends up being very proactive, right? Going out there. And the one thing that I always encourage people to consider is turning on that faucet, getting sales and marketing going now, today, because it's not an instant thing. It's something I've been working on for 8-9 years, like specifically. And a lot of what I did 5-6 years ago are things that have compounded to some of the results I see today. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, there is plenty of things you do now that will affect now, so don't get discouraged by that. But the ability to, I always hear people say, when my operation's ready, or when I make that next hire, I'll start worrying about sales. It's like, yeah, your operation is never going to be done. In an industry where our turnover is like 33 months, your operation team is never going to be 100% sound. So you might as well start working on the sales and marketing. And I think that's what we did. We even got hit a ceiling last year where we started focusing on operations too much, and it actually hurt sales. And then as soon as we started focusing on sales, it forced us to do the right things or make the right moves in operations, because all of a sudden it's like, these people raised their hand and said, we want to hire you, and we don't want to let them down. So I've always used you guys as a partner to be able to offset my weaknesses. And at the same time, what a lot of people don't realize is, in our industry, your BDM is probably the only position that actually pays for itself, or actually has a trackable ROI. And every other role you add another, I don't care if it's a remote person at $7 an hour, they still are just an expense to the bottom line. And your BDM is the person that actually can create opportunity. And that's huge. And I'll say one more thing, because I feel like I'm ranting at this point, but the other great thing is with BDM and Scale Club, you guys helping us, is, like I said, I could train and do my stuff with my BDMs here on the street level, but then they go into RentScale every week, and they hear different points of views from other BDMs, other things happen in other countries or other parts of the country. And that's huge. I mean, Shay specifically, the amount of conversations that we had after his calls on Wednesday or when we met on Friday was things like, hey, this guy's doing this in San Diego. Maybe we should try this out. And some of it's just talking points, and some of it's like, oh, that's good. Or some of it was, we tried that 3 years ago, but maybe we failed. Let's try it again. So there ends up just being this total perspective that you don't get if your BDM's only focused on your market in your office, trying to chase down realtors.
All right, so I want to recap my experience working and seeing you do this as an entrepreneur, I'm fanboying over you for sure. So, you obviously came to us and you wanted to get a sales process in place. And by the way, this is where great video why Mark did that, which I think is cool if you go to the Mark documentary on our website. But you said, I got a good team. I got other people here. They want me to be the business development manager. So you took on the BDM role for how long was it, and how many doors do you think you closed over that period of time?
Yeah, I think I played to my strength, right? I think there's a lot of owners that sales and marketing is either A, not their interest, or B, not their strength, and you should hire that BDM a lot faster. I was good at it. I did enjoy it. Maybe it's the art of the deal or the art of or killing the close, or I like to. I'm a deal maker, but I did do that, and I did that for I think 4 years or so. And I think in that time, I mean, the number was probably 900 doors or something like that. That probably ultimately closed on, but yeah, that was a huge part of it. But then I got to this point where it's like, all right, I was starting to feel that, all right, if we're going to continue to grow, we're going to have to get a second. We're going to have multiple BDMs, and I don't even have one yet. And truth be told, everyone that's close to me knows the story of like, I literally, my mindset, if you guys remember this, was I just got to hire someone so I could screw it up and then go do the right thing with the next BDM. But ultimately, working with you guys didn't let me screw it up. And I do still consider myself lucky that Shay found his way into my inbox, and we teamed up. And ultimately, Shay's success was so great within the company. He's now the director of property management, which I think is probably even a better skill set and experience for him. So pretty excited about that.
That's amazing. All right. So I dropped in the chat. I asked Jen to do some research. We didn't report number of doors closed when you first joined, but since then we've been checking, you guys have closed over 1,300 doors since you've been part of RentScale, closer to 1,400, which is pretty
Wow.
amazing. Yeah. And so you've had this whole process, and I want to ask Shay about his experience about this as well. But before I do that, I just want to say that you were the BDM and you said, I remember I've been on a call and you were like, hey, we didn't even really hire BDMs when you first started working with us. We were just helping the owners sell. And then I said, hey, we started hiring BDMs, and I, as myself as an owner, like I'm getting out of sales. Like I think it's like a natural ceiling. And you said, I don't ever want to get out of sales. Like this is my thing. Like I'm doing it, And I was like, awesome. Let's help you any way we can. What was it? What was the epiphany where you're like, was it like specifically, was it sitting down with your leadership team? Was it like an annual rock? When you're like, I just, now is the time to bring somebody in. What was the impetus there?
I think it just ended up being my personal growth or trajectory in whatever I was going to do. I think by that time you started looking at all right. So at that point, I was about 20 years into the company, or we've had the company for 20 years, and it starts being, I went to the Hermosi thing too, and this didn't come to later, but the message that I think has daunted me for many years is the whole key man factor. And if I'm going to be the face of the company for everything, then ultimately that's going to hurt the value or the ability for me to step away at the decision point that I actually want to do it versus when everyone else allows me to.
Yeah. All right. So anybody that doesn't know what that word means, Mark has also gone to the Hermosi event, and they help you value your company, and they talk about value adders and value detractors. And the number one value detractor that a buyer would value your company on is key man risk, meaning, as you guys all know, RentScale is the Jeremy and Jen show. And if we sold this company and Jeremy and Jen weren't there, they'd probably detract the value, right? So a lot of us have that as small businesses. So if Mark is the only person in his company who's not only running it, but also, which I shouldn't say, don't tell Cliff I just said that. But if you're running it and you're doing all this sales, it's a major key man risk, meaning that like this isn't a business I'm investing, this is a person I'm investing in. So that's what key man risk is, and that's one of our biggest arguments here, which is why the owner should not be doing all of the sales. They can be great at sales, they can do a lot of the sales, but if the owners have to do all the sales, you have major key man risk, right? So thanks for bringing that up. Tee us up. I mean, I think you said you settled for your third choice when you hired Shay. Was that what it was? Like,
Yeah, man,
that's,
ran out of options.
yeah,
Well,
tee
here,
us
I'll
up.
tell you this. Ultimately, the fun story is, so we have a podcast, and I think that's a whole nother marketing conversation to have. But one thing that I like to do, utilize the podcast for, is putting stuff out there I want to do. Our episodes always air about 3-4 weeks after we record them. And if I say I'm going to do something and it comes out and I don't, then I feel like shit. So one thing that I did do was say, hey, we're going to hire business development if anyone knows. And ultimately, Shay heard that and reached out. And by the time he reached out, I actually didn't post it yet, but he reached out and that's how we connected. And he was coming out of the big leagues playing baseball, and got to interview him. And it was a great kind of scenario.
I went in mail on LinkedIn. Sorry, kids. You responded.
It still works. No, I appreciate that. I also appreciate that you hired RentScale to help you hire, and you just attracted the right person because you have this amazing microphone with your podcast, which is amazing. So Shay, just introduce yourself, kind of, how long you've been in the role, what your experience is like. Don't make it too much of a RentScale commercial. I think people want to hear what your actually experience was as a BDM, and then transition us into what you're doing now for GC.
Yeah. So when I first found out about GC, it was because of Mark's podcast. So, like he said, I listen to that podcast all the time. It was sort of like a more market specific version of Bigger Pockets. And I was really drawn to Bigger Pockets at the time, but I felt like I wanted to zero in on something. And yeah, like Mark said, he sort of offhandedly threw out there that he was looking to hire somebody to kind of replace himself. And yeah, I literally dove into his LinkedIn DMs and said, hey, I want to work for you. I don't care what it is. Let me come and do it. And then he responded something along the lines of, good, we have a softball team and we're going to need some, yada, yada, yada. But I was retiring from playing baseball professionally at the time, and I knew that I wanted to get into the real estate investing world. I knew I did not have any money necessarily to do that. So I sort of wanted a paid internship in the operations side of real estate investing. And Mark seemed like a great opportunity to be able to do that. And so that's sort of how I found out about GC. I came into the role without a BDM sort of background, or honestly like a real estate background at all. And that was sort of where RentScale came into play on sort of the who, not how part of that. So another shout out to Ben Hardy, Casey. And yeah, and so the training and the scripting and all that stuff through the BDM side was RentScale, and sort of the exposure to the outside of outside of just GC in the Chicago market. This is what Mark sort of touched on earlier, but understanding the way that the industry operates as a whole was huge for my development of sort of like big picture of what's going on. And then internally, yeah, I had Mark hold my hand for at least the first 90 days. But the combination of those two things started to make me sort of excel. I think combination of just curiosity and competitiveness led to a lot of success in the sales seat itself. But I sort of started to find myself drifting more towards the operation of it. I think in property management, it's easy to get sucked into the operation of it just because that is so much of it. And more, I had an interest in that and sort of behind the curtain of what it's like to run a small to mid-sized business. So we ultimately made that decision. Well, I didn't make that decision. I put in my application and had to go through the interview. But that was, I don't know, 3 months ago now, Mark. And now I sit in the director of property management seat. So that's sort of the fast version.
I had to make the decision that for the greater good of the company to sacrifice him as a BDM. So that was probably one of the toughest decisions I made in 2025.
Well, he was himself sure, man. I mean, and that's the thing, like the way that he brings you along and trains you and pours so much into you. And then also the platform that he has set in place for the BDMs to come in. I mean, that's a huge part of it. A lot of people ask, like, where does lead flow come from? Should we do paper leads? Should we do organic, networking, yada, yada, yada. The organic and like the SEO piece of it is such like a slow burn, but man, does it compound. And so it's so easy to just not, why would I do this right now? Because I'm not going to get any return on it for years and years and years. But what Mark is really good at is getting like 60, 70, 80% of the way there and just sending it. I put this in the chat earlier. It's like his thing that perfection is the enemy of progress in a lot of ways. And so Mark has just continued throwing stuff at that SEO, posting blogs, the podcast, yada, yada, yada. And he's continued to grow all of these things over time, which then in turn, leads to the leads. And so you put a new BDM in that seat and you got a lot of organic stuff coming in.
Mhm.
So this has now become a career path for you, right, Shay? I mean, now like out of baseball, you are in property management. You moved from BDM to now director of property management. I mean, you could be second string on the Savannah Bananas right now if we didn't find you, right? I mean, could have been terrible, but no, now you've really learned a lot about this. And I just do want you to speak on that because I think a lot of clients that call us, they say, "Oh, I just accidentally found in property management. Is there really a career path here?" But when I visit GC, like I feel the culture, I feel the team. Like talk about how you've experienced that and how we kept you away from the Savannah Bananas.
Well, I think that like coming out of a team environment or coming out of a sport or whatever, you do sort of have like a yearning for both competition and sort of like a teamwork, teamsmanship type mentality. And so for me, it was like, how can I both insert my desire for both growth, competitiveness, and team environment into the company, and what can I get from the company on that end as well? And so since I've been there, I feel like there definitely is a push towards a growth and sort of teamwork, and I don't know how else to say it, but in terms of the career path itself, I mean, the sky's the limit, man. I mean, we talk about, we want to grow, we want to grow, we want to grow. We look at the other big players out there that are at 10,000 doors, 15,000 doors, 30,000 doors, 50 million top line revenue. It's like, how do we get to that? And if somebody can do it, then we can do it. And I think that from a career perspective, I mean, that's the appealing part to me. And then listen, all of that, and I touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but the other side of that is I have learned an unbelievable amount about just real estate investing in general, because you get to have all these conversations with varying degrees of operators. And so not only do you learn from the mom and pop investors, guys coming out of corporate like Robert, about what other jobs are out there, but you also learn all about like these pretty, I don't want to say accredited investors, but guys that know what they're doing, that have 50, 75, 100, 200 doors. I mean, those guys are operators, man. So I don't know. I try to soak it all up. I think it is a natural curiosity. Mark talks about that a lot. But I mean, that's the career to me.
Great share. Appreciate that. I wanted you to say that because I want everyone out there to have the vision that's like, oh, I don't have anybody like a Shay in my team yet. How am I going to track them? And what does that person look like? And you've been such a good model of what that looks like. And you're such a good pair with Mark, which I also think is important, right? You got to find that cultural fit where they work together. So 2026, Shay, you've graduated from BDM role, director of PM. What are your goals for 2026 now?
So it is a lot different. It's a lot of internal conversations versus external conversations. To me, it's to continue to grow or make smoother the operation side of it, and the different ways that we track customer satisfaction, and just making sure that we're meeting our SLAs with our customers. But one thing that I really hope to bring to the role is more communication, just from all levels, and rapport building with the owners themselves. I think it's easy on the ops side to get transactional and just, all right, we're handling this lease renewal, we're handling this eviction, collect the rent, yada, yada, yada. But coming from the sales world, like, a lot of the magic is in the rapport building and just understanding, what's going on with their family, or where they move in, or whatever it is. And I think a lot of that is just comes down to trust. And so you can have these opportunities where you might mess something up on the ops side, but if you have the trust of the owner and they know that sort of you have their best interest at heart, it gives you a lot longer leash. And so trying to insert that into the team is really my goal for 2026.
Good stuff. I asked that question out of my own curiosity because that's really cool to see this level. Like I said, I think that, the 8 years that I've got to watch GC is the most mature kind of arc, other than some of my clients that have been acquired. And I know what happens when when they go to Rome or they go to Evernest or somebody else. But you guys are just really, carving out your own little corner of the property management universe. And so it's really cool to see that. So check out what Mark's doing with the podcast. It's amazing. Check out what they're doing with marketing. I think all three of our guests today are just really playing at a high level. Just want to do a quick recap, but before I do, Mark, Casey, or Robert, anything I didn't cover or anything you want to share? Because you got everybody's ear before we wrap up.
I would say for those who don't have a formalized sales structure, I hear it all the time, and I've talked to you about this. They say, "Well, how do I grow?" And I tell them all the time, "Hey, you have to be willing to invest in a sales organization." If you look at any company out there that's successful, even outside of property management, they make investments. They have, set budgets for marketing every year, and you just have to be willing to do it. Don't be afraid to spend those dollars, because if you do it correctly, you'll get, a very nice return on investment. And that's how you grow. You can't just sit around and wait for people to call you. It just doesn't work that way. You have to be willing to um, spend the money, do the work, have a formal sales organization. And maybe your formal sales organization originally is just one person, and that's okay. You start somewhere and then you grow from there.
Sure. I think you said to me at Broker Owner, everybody says to you, how do I grow? But what they really want to know is how do I grow without doing anything new? Which I
Right. Or
love
they don't want
about
to spend
that.
any money. And I always tell them, well, you're not going to grow. Like, you have to be willing to go out there and spend, 20, 25,000, 50, 75,000, whatever it is, think about salary and commission for your BDM. You have to be willing to do it because, as you've said, and how, as others have said, the BDM role will more than pay for itself. So it's not like you're just spending money and it's a sunk cost. You're spending money that's going to generate you whatever X revenue.
Yeah, and when you come to a BDM, it's a couple of things to think about here. Is you only pay. I always, whenever it came to over the years hiring people's salary, it's you only have to pay them 152th at a time. We pay weekly, so it's not you're not writing the check for 75 grand or whatever it is at the same point.
Right.
But then the second thing is the best thing about working with someone like RentScale, and this is what gives me the confidence. This is not even me really trying to pitch you guys, but it turns into that. But like, if my BDM fails, you guys are gonna like feel like shit about it. And so you guys are gonna do everything you can to make sure my BDM doesn't fail. So I know I can lean on you guys, even if I'm not gonna do as much training. And honestly, with this next guy that came in, Russell, I did probably less with him than I did with Shay. And he's taken off and he's loving RentScale and all that stuff. So that's huge. But I want to make one more point here. We are very lucky in this industry. Whether you're CAC 700, 1100, or if it's 2200, that's insanely low for to acquire a customer. That's typically around on an average of like 4.5 years in our industry. Like, and if it's onboarded vacant, bam, you make your money back. Right, the repayment period is so low, and the ability to reinvest into your business, whether it be through RentScale services or Profit Coach, another big one. I always pitch. You guys are on here, so I'll get kudos from you too. But like that is like those are that's the money. That's the don't step over dollars to pick up pennies type mentality that I want you to avoid. And that's, if you're taking anything away from today from all of the panelists here, their ability to invest and see the quick return you're getting, how fortunate we are in this industry is huge.
Yeah, and I'll throw in, go to these events, right? Go to the NARPM events, go to like your PM system conference, whatever events are out there, and talk to other PMs. Most PMs I know are more than willing to share strategies that are working for them. And it's good because you've got to get different strategies from different PMs, because what may work for some may work for you, it may not work for you. So you've got to go out and find all these different strategies that you may not know about and just try them out, see if they'll work in your market, because some things work well in the Raleigh-Durham market, but may work terrible in the Chicago market. So you've got to go out there and network and talk to these people. And from what my experience, other PMs are all more than willing to share. Even at our local NARPM chapter level, we talk about how we're not competitors with each other. Our competitors are the self-managed folks. 65% of them are self-managed. We're all colleagues trying to better our industry. Let's go after the self-managed. That's kind of the pot of gold right there.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, guys. Casey, anything you want to add?
No, good call, but good to meet. It's good to see other smart people. It's good to hear these things. I've actually taken a couple of takeaways from this call too. So it's good. Been good.
Good. Yeah, we're fortunate to be a part of good communities. Like you heard Profit Coach come up. You've heard Crane come up. We've heard NARPM come up. Like we love connecting everybody because there's a lot to do here. Really appreciate it, guys. I'm just going to do a quick, summary of what I want you guys to take away from this. I mean, it's an evolution. You guys are hearing us talk about thousands of doors, and you're like, not sure where I'm at. It's an evolution, just like everybody on this call, including myself, has gone through. And so, if you're just winging in sales, let's get you a systemized sales process. Once you have that, let's make sure you're executing it well. You've got a good BDM, or you are the BDM and you're taking it seriously at your own level. From that point, let's get sales and marketing into leadership, right? So I'm so excited to see what happens at GC now that not only Mark is over there, but also Shay is on the leadership team doing that. I mean, this is really what RentScale is trying to encourage the market to do. We have a whole process for this. You don't have to do everything at once. Mark has done many processes with us, as well as Casey and Robert. Like, you can take it step by step. This is what we do. We're here to help you go from where you are to where you're trying to go. It's about the ratio. Let's make sure you guys are charging enough and you have the right fees and you're profitable enough that you have a really good lifetime value, because he or she that can charge more and make more can spend more in marketing. And that's just survival of the fittest, right? And so we can get you a 10-to-1 ratio. Then you can get you from a 5-to-1 ratio to a 10-to-1 ratio. You've got more leverage, right? You can crank that up a little bit more. Now you can hire a BDM. Maybe you can give your BDM a raise or promote somebody. Maybe you can spend more on marketing. Maybe you can go, host your own events like we talk about. So we really want you to have those 10x returns. This is what we're seeing. We like to say that you put $1 into RentScale, you're at least getting 10 back. And hopefully more and more of that, as you've heard over the 8 years that GC Realty has been with us. And it is just the money multiplier, guys. Whether you spend it with RentScale or you spend it on your own, you got to be thinking about your business as, how am I building a money multiplier? How do I know what I can put in, which is my unit acquisition cost, and how do I know what I get out of that? But please do keep in mind, the money multiplier does not print very quick. It does not return the money overnight. And I think that's one of the ankle weights that hold us back in this business, where you say, I can't afford to do that yet. And so you got to be smart, got to talk to smarter people like Bradley at Profit Coach about that. But this is what we do. And it's worked for so many other people, so it can work for you. And as I joked before, I think one of the biggest blind spots I want to leave you guys with, maybe the most important takeaway, 8 years of RentScale. This is my third service business that I've built sales team in, is we get stuck on the hard, spreadsheet. If I spend $1 today, when will I make $2 back, right? You can improve those things. You can get better right away at speed to lead and your follow up. You can have a proven sales process. You can have a conversion rate. But what I'm telling you is, if you increase your surface area, good things are going to happen. So Robert told us that amazing serendipitous story where they stumbled upon a portfolio that they bought. Working with Mark, we helped him launch his podcast. I've seen what that's done with him. Getting in the game creates a lot of soft opportunities and momentum that are just really hard to put into a spreadsheet. And so taking action and investing in this and working with the right people and taking action is just always going to lead to great things. So don't talk yourself out of it. At the end of the day, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to work for everybody, but the Magic 8 Ball always says nothing changes until you change. So if you want to make change in 2026, I would invite you guys to reach out. At any time, you can go to rentscale.com/book. You can book a meeting with Jen or I. We'd be happy to talk to you guys. We have the Scale Club community if you want to start small. If you go to rentscale.com/scale club, you can see exactly what that looks like. Shay has been a leader in that community for years, and Mark has been as well. And we'd love to help you guys in 2026. So reach out, email us. Thanks, Doug. I know Doug just signed up today, which is really cool. We got one new client on here from our Crane community, which is really good. Reach out. I want to let everybody go. I know we went a little long, but I really appreciate you guys, Casey, Mark, Shay, and Robert, for showing up, and Jen. I think you had to be here, but I still appreciate it.